Got to be Wastelanders, welcome back to the Lost Holotapes channel, where we delve into the entire chronology of the Fallout world. Today is a special day, we are finishing our discussion on the Mojave Wasteland, thus concluding our analysis of the canonical hegemony of the western coast. 3 videos dedicated to the Mojave have already been released on the channel. If you haven't seen them, be sure to start watching from there, although ideally you should watch the entire series starting from the first episode in the playlist. Briefly, let me remind you that the channel relies on your activity, so please be kind, likes, subscriptions, comments. Let's not waste any more time, gather around our map and we will continue exploring the lore of the Mojave Wasteland. The plot of Fallout New Vegas can be roughly divided into 2 acts. The first involves the search for the chip, culminating in Benny's execution at the hands of the Legion. The second act involves preparing for the battle at Hoover Dam and choosing the side. Limiting the storyline period from October 19th of 2281 to August 2282, according to the fan-made story mod War Trash, it will be convenient to divide the acts by the new year. On October 19th, the courier wakes up from a coma after being shot, puts on his pants and runs out onto the street. There's no time to lose, he must follow the trail of his attackers because delivering the package is a matter of honor according to the unwritten code of postmen. Following leads, he heads to Prim. However, before that he helps Good Springs fend off an attack by Joe Cobb's powder gangers, who wanted to rob the town. On his way to Prim, the courier encounters a Jackal gang camp at the highway patrol post, which he destroys. Nipton Lottery. Whoops Incultive from Intari, operating on the western bank of the Colorado River, came to the town of Nipton and offered a deal to the mayor. For a large reward, he would organize a simultaneous meeting of the NCR and powder gangers, and the Legion would kill them all. The greedy mayor agreed. On the appointed day, the Legion arrived slightly earlier than expected to also capture the mayor and all the other townspeople. The residents, some NCR soldiers and several powder gangers were herded to the main square, where they were forced to participate in a lottery. Among the last places drawn were beheadings, crucifixions and swift executions. The mayor was burnt alive on tires. The prize for the third place was slavery and transportation to the Legion via Cottonwood Cove. The second place winner had their legs broken but was left alive. The lottery winner was released to tell everyone that the Legion was already in the Mojave. Leaving no one in the town except the maimed, the city was burned down and the Legion raiding party returned to Cottonwood Cove, creating a makeshift camp along the way. The courier arrives in Prim and together with the nearby NCR troops stationed at the camp retakes Prim from the powder gangers. Prim will eventually fall under NCR control, which will work to rebuild the town. Locals tell the courier that the Huns left to the east towards Nipton and Novak. The courier falls into another Jackal ambush at a camp on the road to Nipton. After passing through the devastated Nipton, he falls into a trap set by the Vipers at the raided farmstead. The southern powder gangers camp splits from the faction and a new minor gang emerges, Chavez Crew. But the powder gangers didn't like this and got rid of them. However, things went very wrong for the powder gangers. The NCR finally decided to retake the prison and besieged it, wiping out the entrenched powder gangers. Again, I remind you that we will separately analyze the expanded history of the powder gangers, which was revealed in the wonderful story mod working on the Chain Gang. At the request of the surviving cripple in Nipton, who was a member of the powder gangers, the courier catches up with the Legion caravan at their makeshift camp and wipes them out, freeing the captives. The courier arrives in Novak. He is promised information about the Mongols and a gentleman in a checkered jacket in exchange for help with the feral ghouls and Night King coming from Repcon. In Repcon, the courier helps drive away the Night King. The Bright Brotherhood boards the rockets and goes into space, but they only have enough thrust for a few kilometers and they crash not far from Novak. The courier receives the next lead, Boulder City. In the ruins of Boulder City, a group of Huns left by Benny finds itself pinned down by an NCR squad. In the preceding skirmish, they managed to take several soldiers hostage. In exchange for information on Benny's whereabouts, the courier helps the Huns escape to Red Rock, negotiating with the NCR troops who let them go in exchange for the hostages. December, Camp Guardian is attacked by Mirelurks living in caves, which the initial NCR reconnaissance ignored. Everyone except one soldier dies at night after the anthropods attack the camp. Upon arriving at the strip, the courier meets his client, Robert House, and also finds Benny, but he escapes. Unfortunately for Benny, he is caught by the Legion and taken to Fortification Hill. Recognizing the courier's extraordinary nature, both Robert House, the Legion and the NCR try to recruit him at the same time. But before the courier makes a formal decision on which faction to support, events related to secondary plot lines occur in the region, regardless of his participation or thanks to it. For subsequent events, we will take the period from January to August 2282. The Legion launches several attacks on NCR positions. The Legion attacks one of the NCR squads, captures it and transports it to the camp in Techitikap mine. In addition, the Legion successfully raids and destroys the ranger station Charlie. Then the Legion attacks Bitter Springs, but it is repelled. Craig Boone made a significant contribution to the defense, visiting the camp to deal with his ghosts from the massacre at Bitter Springs in which he participated. In addition to Legion attacks, Bitter Springs is constantly shelled by a Hunt sniper, seeking revenge for a massacre several years ago. A mauling Camp McCarran mines the monorail connecting McCarran and the Strip. The destruction of the monorail is of strategic importance because the NCR will not be able to quickly respond to the turmoil in Vegas, which the Omertas plan to arrange. In the White Glove Society, one of the managers, Mortimer, tries to return his tribe to cannibalism and mistakenly kidnaps the son of influential NCR Brahmin Baron Heg Gunderson, who came to discuss meat supply terms at the Strip. I really want to preserve the drama and adequacy of the narrative and not give the courier the opportunity to save just everyone in the Wasteland. We accept that Ted Gunderson was turned into steaks and the tribe returned to cannibalism. Cassidy caravan owner, Rose Cassidy, investigates and discovers that her caravan, as well as caravans of her fellow guild members, were destroyed by the Van Graffs and the Crimson Caravan. The Van Graffs just can't make friends with anyone. They're very toxic. Well, you got it, because they trade plasma rifles. They manage to make enemies all around them, and everyone wants them dead, including the Brotherhood of Steel, the Kings, owners of the destroyed caravans, and other clients. In our story, one of the dissatisfied clients smuggled a bomb into the Silver Rush and blew up the store, killing all the Van Graffs and the guards inside. The Van Graffs as a faction in the Mojave is destroyed. The NCR begins to push back the Legion. Soldiers in Forlorn Hope gather their strength and finish up the crucified prisoners in Nelson, after which they attack the Legion outpost and capture it. Moving forward, they wipe out the Legion in Techeti Cup mine and free more prisoners of wars. The NCR makes a fairly successful breakthrough at Cottonwood Cove. Using the same tactics as the Legion in Searchlight, they open the radioactive barrels of the third track, spreading radiation through the camp and wiping out Legionnaires. Here it is necessary to make a remark that the fan-made storyline mod Battle for South significantly expands the storyline related to the region's breakthrough in the south, its attempts to create a foothold for further advance, and the NCR counterattack, which ended with the dropping of radioactive barrels on Cottonwood Cove. It is as if they squeezed a dozen intermediate quests inside Sergeant Astor's quest, turning the destruction of a Wall Legion army with just one barrel into a full-fledged act of the military theater. We will thoroughly analyze it in the corresponding episode. Also, the NCR army based in Camp McCarran and which is constantly under attack by Finns, organizes missions to eliminate 3 raider leaders, which they successfully carry out. Samuel Cook's group in Vault 19 decides to curb their revenge ambitions towards the NCR and joins the Hunts. NCR mercenaries at the behest of one of the senators try to provoke a conflict in Jacobstown to have a reason to attack them with their army. But the wise Marcus bribes the mercenaries and they leave the area satisfied regardless of the result. In the sewers between Westside and North Vegas, the local militia deals with the Greasers gang, which bothers the locals. In Vault 34 there are still a few surviving dwellers. Luckily for them, the NCR farmers who were investigating the radiation poisoning of the soil through courier find them and help them evacuate to Irotech. One of the unpleasant moments of the original Fallout New Vegas narrative is the 2 paths of the Brotherhood storyline, depending on whether the courier supports McNamara's removal or not. On one hand, we would like additional drama within the Brotherhood, but on the other hand, changing the leadership of the Brotherhood closes off some narrative paths that we would also like to explore. If McNamara is left as Elder, the Brotherhood will attack Utobita and may subsequently negotiate a truce with the NCR, at least in the Mojave. However, if the courier Hell's Paladin Hardin sees control, he will initiate the destruction of the Van Graffs, making a ceasefire with the NCR impossible. While Utobita has almost the sole storyline involving the Brotherhood's attempt to install a transmitter on a radio tower, the Van Graffs have other opportunities to perish. Nevertheless, I cannot fail to comment on the fact that working for the Brotherhood and obtaining the rank of Paladin just to initiate the self-destruction system of their bunker after 10 minutes is a very weak concept that undermines the courier as a character, because if he visited the Brotherhood before arriving at the Strip, it means he genuinely helped them, but if he came to them for the first time on an NCR assignment, then it's not Fallout anymore, it's Agent 47. The legions of Frumentari have to make their way through the enemy ranks for years, preparing for similar sabotages. So, the situation unfolds as follows. The Brotherhood launches an attack on Utobita, destroying the super mutants and seizing the radio station to send a signal to California. Meanwhile, Veronica Santangelo, a scribe with a steel fist, decides to leave the Brotherhood and attempts to join the followers of the Apocalypse. She visits their outpost, but the Brotherhood cannot allow their deserters to reveal all the organization's secrets. The Brotherhood squad destroys the outpost and all the followers present there, forcing Veronica to wander the wasteland alone. Now let's talk about the game lore presented in the add-ons to Fallout New Vegas. It was a deliberate decision to place them between the 2 acts of the courier's adventures in the Mojave. Their missions are usually the most convenient place to insert side quest storylines. Elder Elijah kidnaps the courier and several other misfits, including Kristen Royce, a Circle of Steel agent, force them to open the sealed Sierra Madre casino, which has been preserved for 2 centuries, threatening to explode their colors. The courier manages to infiltrate the casino, rescue his companions, and trap Elijah in Sinclair's vault, an ironic and agonizing death. In the Big Mountain, the courier is kidnapped by think tank Veggies, intrigued by the bullet in his head. They extract his brain for study in hopes of using it in some elaborate way to escape from these scientific conflicts. The courier persuades the scientists to return his brain and puts an end to the torment of the remnants of the ghoul camp Little Yanzi, flirts with light switches, fertilizes a robot greenhouse with the found seeds, sacrifices teapots and vacuum cleaners to a toaster, and then heads home. The courier takes up a side job escorting the Happy Trails caravan heading to Zion Canyon. When you play with the God mod for the sake of video footages and vacuum clean everything you see, throwing away stuff not to breach 100-pound weight limit becomes an extremely mundane activity, I must say. In Zion Canyon, the War for Zion occurs, in which the Soros and the Dead Horses clash with the White Legs, who seek to exterminate the Mormons. The Happy Trails caravan, after 2 weeks of travel, immediately falls into a deadly ambush by the White Legs upon arrival. To sole survival, the courier joins the defending tribes and helps them launch a coordinated counterattack on the White Legs' Three Marys camp. The tribes wipe out the White Legs and decide to stay in Zion. They had conflicts in the future due to contradictions, but somehow managed to coexist. According to another ending, which we do not consider, the tribes evacuated from the canyon. The surviving White Legs returned to the Salt Lake Wasteland, where, as we already know from the previous episode, they were finished off by the 80s. Next, Ulysses confronts the courier and demands an audience in the Divide. Pushing through crowds of flayed ghouls, the courier finds Ulysses and, depending on the ending, sets off the remaining nuclear bomb in the region at one of the outposts, Dry Wells Olong 15. Following the NCR storyline, the bomb was dropped in Dry Wells, the former settlement of Twisted Hares, now a Legion camp. At this point, the storyline branches, until there is a lore canonizing any ending, as long as fan-made story modes are based on an NCR victory, we choose the NCR storyline as the good karma path. Furthermore, the courier had lived and worked in the NCR even before the war in the Mojave, so his potential inclination to support the NCR seems fitting for their character. Thanks to the courier, the NCR establishes an alliance with the Boomers, who possess powerful weaponry but are reclusive. After finding his way to Nellis Air Force Base and making contact with the Boomers, the courier helps them raise a bomber plane from the bottom of Lake Mead and assists them in dealing with an ant invasion in their generator room. In the Mojave Wasteland, several old Enclave remnants still live, hiding from the NCR. The courier, along with Arcade Gannon, whose father was an important commander in the Enclave 40 years ago, gathers the old guard and convinces them to shake off the rust and help the NCR in the battle against the Legion. They gather their group at the old vertebrate refilling station. Next, the NCR is asked to strengthen their reputation in Freeside and stop the conflict with the Kings, which they manage to do by exposing Pacer to the King. The NCR wants to get rid of the Grey Hunts, and the courier succeeds in convincing them to break their alliance with the Legion and leave the Mojave during the battle for Hoover Dam. Next in line for the NCR is the Brotherhood of Steel. The NCR sends the courier to sabotage the Hidden Valley bunker. However, we have already agreed to follow the path of positive karma by leaving McNamara as Elder, which means we will use the option of forging a ceasefire between the Brotherhood and the NCR. Moreover, there may someday be worthwhile modes that require the Brotherhood's presence in the narrative, so let it be. The courier then, on the orders of the NCR, eliminates Mr. House. He dies either being pulled out of his hermetically sealed chamber, protecting him from microbial infection, or from a golf club blow to the head. Not the most epic ending for Mr. House, actually. President Aaron Kimball arrives in the Mojave to give a speech before the impending battle and inspire the troops. The NCR pays a huge price in lives of its soldiers and its economy, trying to secure a foothold in the Mojave. If the NCR loses, Kimball faces political downfall. He needs a victory and he needs it fast. But the Legion attempts an assassination on the President Kimball, sending both a knife-wielding assailant into the crowd and a sniper and a bomber to his vertebrate. Whichever method Agent 47 chooses, the assassination is successful and Kimball dies. But tragedy also strikes within the Legion ranks. Caesar dies from brain cancer that had been progressing over the past few years. I find this plot twist resulting from the merging of two story arcs incredibly dramatic and fitting into the history. The war in the Mojave claimed the lives not only of ordinary soldiers, but also of the lives of 3 military leaders. As Securitrons stand idle without House's command, human armies are still led by General Lee Oliver and Legate Lenius, and they need to end this war urgently. August, the second battle of Hoover Dam begins, Oliver vs Lenius. The Legion launches an offensive both on the surface of the dam and inside it, infiltrating the NCR's inner chambers through the pipes. Thanks to their friendship with other factions against the Legion, the Boomers support by bombing from the air, and the Enclave remnants unexpectedly for the NCR, joining the battle in a vertibird and then quickly retreating. Followers of the Apocalypse provide medical assistance to the NCR despite past attempts by the NCR to drive them out of the country. The Huns were supposed to fight for the Legion but didn't. Instead, they gathered their belongings to move to Wyoming. During the offensive, the Legion breaks through to Camp Golf and Camp Forlorn Hope. Both outposts are successfully defended. The Legion also attacked Novak, but the surviving ghouls from the Bright Brotherhood came to the aid of the settlement, and together they repelled the attack. During the battle for the dam, Finns attacked Camp McCarran, besieging the garrison. However, McCarran with its walls proved to be a reliable fortress, and the NCR managed to repel the attack. Nevertheless, due to the Finns and the destroyed monorail line, the NCR could not provide support to the Strip families when the Emeritus attempted to take over the Strip. However, the tribes managed to overpower and neutralize the Emeritus. The NCR manages to hold off the Legion and the dam. Thanks to the help of other factions and the treachery of the Grey Huns, the situation is turned around. Launching the counterattack, the NCR reaches the Legate's camp and fortification hill and destroys them. Lanius may die or he may flee. His fate will not affect the story further. The game portion of the storyline ends here, but such global events couldn't solely end with them. The Legion completely withdraws from the Mojave and retreats back to the Sonoran. Fan-made story modes such as War Trash and Tales from New Reno leave the Legion weakened but still an active state, stubbornly resisting the advancing NCR. North Vegas, West Side, the Strip, Trading Post, 188, Good Springs and Prim fall under NCR control. Rebuilt Prim quickly develops due to its fortunate location on the trade route. The Kings remain in allied relations with the NCR, but nothing more. Freeside retains its independence. The same goes for the Boomers in Ellis and the town of Novak. As part of the ceasefire agreement, the Brotherhood of Steel finally lifted the lockdown in the Mojave and committed to organizing patrols along Interstate 95, contributing to the security of the area. Of course, it is difficult at this point to speculate on the implications of such a ceasefire against the backdrop of the ongoing war between the NCR and Lost Hills, but this is a sufficiently global issue for the canon as a whole. The followers of the Apocalypse, for their help in the battle, were allowed to conduct their business in the Mojave. They were no longer pursued in the Boneyard and well left alone. After the destruction of Utobita, many supermutants migrate to Jacobstown, which flourishes, especially after the invention of a cure for Nightkin schizophrenia. Although the Van Graffs were destroyed, Rose of Cassidy gathers enough evidence against the Crimson Caravan and its head in the Mojave, Alice McLafferty, which she provides to the NCR authorities. Considering that caravan routes are a strategic asset for the state, the NCR clearly did not like that some caravans barbarically eliminated competitors, so they imposed sanctions against the Crimson Caravan and enacted laws tightening punishments for unfair competition. Alice McLafferty was forced to leave her post and Vegas and head to California. However, on the way west, her caravan perishes after an alleged raider attack who took nothing from their goods. Suspicions fell on the gunrunners, but they publicly deny involvement in the incident as they had no reason to deal with Alice, right? There is no ending for the White Glove Society, but most likely the fact of cannibalism would be exposed and that influential NCR baron, having lost his son in their stomachs, would unleash an army, police, judiciary and do everything to ensure the society could not exist in the NCR. Thus only the chairman will remain to govern the Strip. After some time, probably in 2283 if considering fun modes, the Great Huns will eventually move to Wyoming, where they will establish their Mongolian Empire. With forces gathered, the NCR marches on South Vegas, destroying the Finns. According to Tales from New Reno, this happened after December 18th of 2282, and according to the War Trash mod, after May 27th of 2283. Although it is currently impossible to determine the more true ending of Fallout New Vegas, and the choice was made for the NCR storyline, it's worth exploring other endings, one of which may potentially be canonized in the future. If we imagine that the Legion achieved victory at the Hoover Dam, they would completely drive the NCR from the western shore. Advancing further, the Legion besieged and destroys Camp Golf and Camp Forlorn Hope. Simultaneously, the Finns besiege and break into Camp McCarran. The NCR evacuates or loses all of its remaining outposts and settlements in the Legion's advance, including Sloan, Farms, Aerotech, Ranger Stations, Alpha, Bravo, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, Nelson, El Dorado, Bitter Springs, the Prison, Crimson Caravan Camp, and the Mojave Outpost. Legate Lenius is crowned as the new Caesar. The Legion enters Vegas and destroys anyone who opposes them. Under their control are the Strip, West Side, and North Vegas. In Freeside, the Legion destroys those resisting, including the Kings, and captures the city as well. If the White Glove Society and chairman managed to resist the Emertis, they would be finished off by the arriving Legion. Even if the White Gloves survived until their arrival, they would still be crucified for cannibalism. Perhaps the chairman were offered to join the Legion for their relatively passive participation in the conflict, or perhaps not. In any case, the Emertis would have been absorbed by the Legion, if survived. Seeing how dangerous the boomers were with their artillery, the Legion decided to leave them alone, allowing them to exist in peace on the border territory. The Brotherhood of Steel, taking advantage of the weakness of the NCR during the Legion's advance, would have launched their own offensive and recaptured Helios 1 station. However, they would unlikely be able to hold the region for long, facing the Legion alone. The Legion would not tolerate the presence of the Fiends, Jackals, Vipers, Scorpions, or even the followers of the Apocalypse. The residents of Good Springs wouldn't wait for their deaths on crosses and would simply evacuate from the town upon seeing what the Legion was capable of. The same would happen with Novak, except in its case, the town would be subjected to Legion siege, which would be held off during the evacuation thanks to the Bright Brotherhood's timely assistance. The town of Prim, daring to resist the town, would be destroyed. If Mr. House had obtained the Platinum chip, the army of upgraded Securitrons in the bunker beneath Fortification Hill would have been activated during the battle for Hoover Dam, destroying Caesar's fort. After also destroying the Legate's camp, the Securitrons would have crossed the dam and forced the NCR to lay down their weapons. The NCR, having suffered defeats in the parallel battles, would have been too weakened, disorganized and demoralized after the president's death. House would have exploited their weakness and compelled the NCR to withdraw to California. Consequently, the NCR would have abandoned all their remaining outposts and bases. It's likely that the Crimson Caravan and NCR Embassy would have remained in the region to maintain trade and diplomatic relations with Vegas. The NCR would still have had Long 15 and even Mojave outposts as border posts. Mr. House wouldn't have cared about the boomers in Nellis. However, the boomers would have started periodically venturing out and trading. No ending for the Brotherhood would have been possible, as they would have been ruthlessly destroyed by House along his storyline without a compromise. There wouldn't have been any Emertis in Vegas anymore, but White Glove Society would also have been destroyed by House for violating the agreement to cease their cannibalistic practices. Only the chairman would have remained. House would have also cleared out South Vegas from the Fiends and destroyed the Kings for their alliance with the NCR. The followers wouldn't have been threatened by anything, but due to the prevailing anarchy and the rising of violence, it would have become difficult for them to help everyone seeking medical assistance. Wood Springs would have become a very important trading center in the region. While Prim's income would have also started to grow due to its location on the trade route, House would have heavily taxed the settlement for their assistance to the NCR. There is also the ending where independent Vegas is established, where the courier takes control of the Securitrons and overthrows Mr. House. It's very similar to the House ending, but with a slight difference in that the kings survive, becoming the sole rulers of Freeside, and the White Glove Society also has no one else to threaten them. The Fiends, Jackals, Vipers, Scorpions would also survive, continuing to raid the surrounding areas. This concludes the current history of the Mojave Wasteland and the entire western coast according to Bethesda canon. It will be very interesting to see whether writers take the storyline and what from the original Fallout New Vegas will be considered true canon after the release of Fallout New Vegas 2 if it ever happens. It is quite possible that some adjustments will have to be made to the current version of the story, but that's how it goes. Lore is a malleable and dynamic material. However, despite the conclusion of Fallout New Vegas, we will continue to talk about it, considering fan-made storyline modes. Ahead of us are several more standalone modes and a couple of Wolf series. The Lost Holotapes project lives thanks to the active support of Wastelanders, so thank you for your likes, subscriptions and warm comments. Well, that's all for today. Even if you have the TV remote in your hands, there is no need to aim it at the warheads and press the red button. Only by exercising caution can we meet again in the Wastelands, Wanderers, end of the holotape.